My name is Peg DeBoard, and I'm the president of the League of Women Voters in South Tonka, and I will be the moderator for the forum tonight. I'd like to welcome our mayors and the viewing audience to our third virtual Mayors Forum, although we've done Mayors Forums non-virtually in person for many years. This is our actual third virtual forum. We are again partnering with the Lake Minnetonka Cable Commission, who will be hosting and recording this event for distribution to the cities and to the League of Women Voters. Here's a few fun facts about the League. We are celebrating our 102nd year of empowering voters and defending democracy. Our history of nonpartisanship is solid. We not only believe that voting equals people power, but giving back to our community is essential. The League is open to all genders, ages 16 and older, and from the very beginning of our history, the League has been supported by men who contributed to our success and who are also League members. The League of Women Voters is nonpartisan, which means that we neither support nor oppose political parties nor candidates. We believe that informed and engaged citizens are the cornerstone of our democracy. Therefore, we arrive at our positions based on studies that our members have facilitated and developed nonpartisan solutions or positions to solve community issues. And then our work begins by advocating for change at all levels of government. So the process for tonight is the questions being posed tonight have been submitted by members of our League and are intended to be thoughtful and provide the mayors with an opportunity to showcase their cities and inform their residents about what is happening and information that will be of interest. Helping with questions tonight from the South Tonka League are Cheryl Lesser, who lives in Shorewood, and Sharon Murphy-Garber, who lives at Deep Haven. Now, I would like to introduce the mayors. Melissa McNeil is our newest mayor, and she is the mayor of Deep Haven. Todd Carlson is the mayor of Excelsior. Deb Kind is the mayor of Greenwood. Jennifer Labadie is mayor of Shorewood, and Adam Jennings is the mayor of Tonka Bay. Unfortunately, Van Soerth, who is the mayor of Woodland, is unable to join us tonight. So first, here are some questions that center around city government. The Council of Metropolitan Area Leagues of Women Voters has just completed a 2-year-long study on county government focusing on transparency, accountability, and public engagement. We are interested in what the mayors have to say regarding the practices in your cities that speak to transparency, accountability, and public engagement. So the first question is, what practices have been successful in keeping residents informed? And whoever, Deb, how would you like to start? Mayor Kind.
Email blasts really are a great way for Greenwood to keep our residents informed. We also send out mailings as is required by law for any development or planning and zoning changes that are happening within 300 feet, I believe, is the rule of a variance or conditional use permit. So residents are informed that way, and we do have good public engagement. Residents show up at our meetings virtually when we were in pandemic mode, and now in person that we're back in person mode. And Greenwood residents are very engaged. They also keep their neighbors informed. When they see an email blast go out, they make sure that everybody knows that our property valuations went up 34.6% on average this year, for instance. And that's the big buzz going on in Greenwood right now. So the email blast system probably is our best way of getting the word out.
Great. Mayor Carlson, how about you?
Yeah, happy to share. And we do certainly in Excelsior some of the same things that Mayor Kind is talking about in Greenwood. I think one thing that's really turned out well for Excelsior, and I really want to say thank you to Chris and his team at LMCC. Going into COVID, when we had to go into virtual meetings, that was a new way of doing things for us. And I think one of the things that we learned coming out of that, though, is we were really able to drive engagement with a lot of residents that normally wouldn't come and attend a council meeting. And I want to say thank you to the LMCC and our staff. For when we went back in person, we were able to, get the equipment, get our council chamber set up, continue to do virtual meetings in addition to meeting in person. So I think that's been a big benefit for our keeping residents involved. As Deb mentioned, we also do, we've got email opportunities. We send a quarterly newsletter to all of our residents, updating them on upcoming events. And, I think the biggest thing that, again, we just try to do is just making sure, and this is one thing I'll call, is we added a topic to our council meetings called Meet Excelsior. And that's just an opportunity, again, we introduce either a business or a resident that's making an impact in the community. And again, just trying to drive that involvement between council and our residents and businesses.
Great. Adam, Mayor Jennings.
Yeah, I would second pretty much everything that's been said thus far. I think one of the changes that we made here just within the last year or so was that I think we have a number of residents that wouldn't necessarily receive email blasts. We've been trying to be very proactive about that, but in an effort to reach everyone, we actually went back to mailing our newsletters to 100% of our population, just to make sure that those who are less comfortable with email or electronic forms of communication are also involved. The other thing I would say too is, we're a relatively small community. And I know just the manner in which I try to conduct the meetings, I think we're all guided by Robert's rules of order. And I really try to make things as casual as possible, because we're kind of a small town, and I'd rather have a lot of our things be conversational. Because a lot of the topics that we're dealing with are not as complicated as some of the bigger cities. So that's just a way for people to feel welcome and not necessarily getting snared in some of the formality that they're probably not used to if they're coming to a city council meeting for the first time.
Great, thanks. How about you, Mayor McNeil?
We have for decades sent out an old school paper mailing as well, and we will continue to do that. But we've actually been taking a page from Mayor Kind's book. I'm learning a lot from her, whether you realize it or not, Deb. But we are slowly but surely updating a lot of our outdated systems. One of those being the website, and there's still a lot of work to do. But as part of that upgrade, there's also the ability to send out email blast as well if residents sign up. And hopefully here in the near future, I'm working to see if we can improve that and maybe send out, some residents have requested the ability to receive text messages. So I'm investigating that possibility. That might be a little too forward for us just here in the next year, but never say never. So the more we can do with that, the better. And we're trying to do better also about taking advantage of that website that we've set up, and providing more content along with flashes at the top of the screen when something's particularly important that can be turned on and off. And those email blasts will direct folks to that page. So it's a process. Great.
And then Mayor Labadie.
Hi, everyone. One thing, just like all of you, when the pandemic was rearing its ugly head, we went to a Zoom format. Then we went back live in person, and now we're back to a Zoom format again. But we found when we went initially to the Zoom format, we suddenly used to have about 2, maybe 5 residents at a meeting, and suddenly we were having 25, 30, 35 residents at every meeting. So we, one way we are attempting to keep residents still engaged is when we did go back to live meetings. Like I said, now we're back on Zoom again, but the brief stint where we were back live, we upgraded our technology even further to allow us to maintain an interactive Zoom format that people could participate on Zoom from their home while a live council meeting was going on in chambers. And we decided to do that on a trial basis. Will we continue that forever? I'm not sure. It had its pros and its cons. But one thing it did allow was engagement. And like everyone else, we have our newsletter, we have a physical mailer that we mail out. Then we also have road construction project emails that people can sign up for specific to certain topics. So those are some of the things we've implemented in Shorewood.
Well, great, thanks. I know I'm getting ready for this forum. I had kind of went to all of your websites again, and they all look pretty snappy. So I can tell that they've improved from the last time I looked, which is really fun. So I have a couple of just questions just about, are your cities and businesses experiencing staff shortages, and has the city helped in any way if there are shortages exist in staffing? And I'll take whoever, if anybody has an answer to that question.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. I'll just simply say, I think about 6 months ago, that was really the case, Peg. Over the course of the last few months, as we're transitioning out of winter here a little bit, I think things have improved. But I know from both a city as well as a business perspective, we were struggling for a while. I know some of our businesses were going to reduced hours because they couldn't find employees. And at city staff, we had a number of openings on our staff that we couldn't fill, and we're a small staff anyway. I think over the course of the last couple of months, certainly coming out of Omicron, that's improved. Certainly for our city.
I'll jump in. The city of Shorewood is basically a residential city. We're about 98, 99% residential. We just have a couple little commercial areas, commercial districts, and they did and they still are experiencing staffing shortages. Our dollar store and our coffee shop are running on limited hours because they don't have the staff to maintain their pre-COVID hours. Other businesses, the employees have stated they haven't had days off in a very long time because they're filling in. So the businesses are all managing, but some did have to cut their hours.
I would have to second that from Tonka Bay's perspective. Our commercial district is quite small, but I do know that the businesses that we have had to make adjustments, have had to make adjustments in order to just kind of weather through this storm. I think things are getting better. Certainly from the beginning of things. I do want to take a moment though. I know, at least from my perspective, I kind of think of Excelsior as being kind of the downtown for at least for Tonka Bay. And I want to commend them for all of the work that they've done. Certainly because I think they've gone above and beyond to try and help their commercial district, which is quite large and is a benefit to all of us.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Jennings.
I'll go next. Greenwood's got a very, very small commercial district, actually kind of the old log and then the 5 businesses on Highway 7 and Christmas Lake Road. The old log I know has struggled getting restaurant workers, but otherwise, to my understanding, everybody is doing fine on the employment front, staffing shortages. I know Greenwood because we recently posted and filled very easily and quickly a 100% remote job. That's where the interest is. If you've got jobs that are remote, there's plenty of people who are interested in those. People like working remotely. We had no trouble filling that position.
We're facing a similar challenge, I guess we'll say, in the city. Again, very small business district, and the businesses are doing okay. And I've certainly talked to many of the folks that are there. We haven't had reduced hours so much in Deep Haven, but just on the edge, I've noticed, for instance, as we all have, the coffee shops aren't open for the same amount of time that they used to be. However, what is personally affecting us is what I would deem bench strength. So as we lose folks, we're having a hard time finding replacements that will stay for various reasons, whether they are looking for a remote position, which we don't yet offer at this time, or if it's, for instance, a position that doesn't allow for remote work, looking for and finding those quality individuals that want to be here and want to stay with us and build them up and train them. That's where we're at and having the trouble.
Great, thanks. So next up is Sharon Murphy Garber from Deep Haven, and she has questions regarding the 2020 census and redistricting.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. It was kind of my question because I know we have a new district that was created through the census and redistricting process. I'm just wondering for the cities, because I know it trickles all the way down, was there a change in the population of your cities over the last 10 years? And has your city experienced any effects from the new redistricting map?
This is a
whoever-
quick and easy one for
Yeah.
me to answer. I will say our population hasn't changed in that regard, but the way it's affected us most is that we had someone from Deep Haven that was running under a different district, and he is now running against two additional individuals that he was not running against before, and one of those being another Deep Haven resident as well. So that has changed in that regard, but it hasn't changed necessarily for our population.
Okay, so you haven't seen more diversity or any of that? None of that shook out as much?
No, and
Okay.
Sharon, as you know, we're very, very small.
No, I know that. I'm just throwing that out there.
You're in Deep Haven, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually in Cottage, but yes,
Yeah,
yeah. You know how it goes.
I do.
But yes, I'm Deep Haven. So, but what I found interesting, and I sat through the state dissemination of the information, was how it demographically we have more mixed marriages, mixed cultures, those kinds of things, which I thought was very interesting, and which is great. I think the more the merrier. Anybody else for the redistricting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
The city of Shorewood experienced a change with the redistricting. Our entire city will continue to be represented by one state senator.
Yeah.
But our city now is split, and portions of our city will be represented by different state representatives. So that's a big shift for us. It's disproportionate split. One representative will have the majority of our city, but just the fact that some of our city residents will be represented by a second state representative is a big change for us.
And I'll just throw in real quickly. I know I've been extremely vocal most of the time I've had this seat about trying to replace the main water line in our city along County Road 19. And an absolutely positive effect from the redistricting was that initially we had 2 incumbents that were backing our bill, but now we have 3 incumbents that are all sponsoring bills for us at the state legislature level. So fingers crossed on the omnibus.
Yep.
Yeah, and from Excelsior, no impacts. Our population remained pretty constant. I think there was maybe an adjustment up a little bit, but not much, still around 2,300 residents, and no impact to Excelsior's lines from the redistricting map.
Okay.
Still, if you live in Excelsior, you've got 3 numbers in your street address.
Yeah. Okay.
Greenwood, I just had to Google what our 2010 census number was. It was 688.
Yeah.
And the 2020 was 726, an increase of 38. I'm not sure where those 38 people went to since we're fully built out, but maybe there's children that weren't there before. I'm not really sure. It's always a mystery to me, but not a significant change.
I think there might have been more kids living at home that were of age to be an individual. That's what I would guess.
And then redistricting did not affect us at all.
Okay. Well, so Shorewood's got the most. That's interesting. And then I'd also like I'm going to talk about a little public safety. We've all heard, and we know from many of us on Nexstar and other news sites and the South Lake police updates, that there's more carjackings and things like that. I'm just going to ask a couple of questions around that. Has your city seen an increase in these issues? What is your city doing in response? And do you have any special training for the police regarding these issues, since so many of them are with minors?
So the 4
Anybody?
cities of Shorewood, Tonka Bay, Excelsior, and Deep Haven, we share a joint powers police
Right.
department. And I'll defer to the chair of the board to discuss the matters, and then maybe the rest of us can chime in.
Perfect.
Well, thank you, Mayor Lavity. No.
Oh, that's good.
No, actually, to that point, I know there certainly has been an increase, and it's been impacting a number of the cities within the district. I know from Tonka Bay's perspective solely, there really hasn't been a change in anything. I think that's largely due to our topography. However, we just recently hired a new police chief who began at the beginning of this year. And actually earlier just this week, I think both Mayor Laverty and myself had gone to training that they had just executed, which included specifically de-escalation training.
Good.
But I'm going to have to defer to some of the other cities because I know there have been spikes in aggregate. There have been significant spikes amongst us as a group. But from a city perspective, Tonka Bay has largely been unaffected from this.
I think you're right, because you're not accessible as quickly to a highway.
We're not. We're basically just a long strip of land that kind of separates upper and lower Lake Minnetonka. So I think from that, just the topography of it, it's not easy to get in here. Or out of.
Greenwood is very much that way, although we have good proximity to Highway 7, but our roads are very narrow and not all that convenient. And we do have neighbors that are alert. We did have a car theft of a car that was at a home of residents that were on vacation for an extended period of time. And that person was brazen enough to come back to the house in the very same car and try to get more. And our police department, because of neighbors, caught him in the act and arrested him in the home. So a happy ending, I guess.
Yeah.
To that situation.
Yeah, I think the South Lakes PD is doing a really good job of educating the public on what to be alert about and keeping your garage door closed and not posting things on social media while you're out of town and all sorts of things. They've started a basically like a public relations campaign on social media, and I think it's working really well. Shorewood did see an uptick. We did have a couple carjackings and a couple car theft, not jackings, pardon me. We had a couple car thefts, not jackings.
Yeah.
And we also had an incident where a car was stolen from a different city, driven to our city,
Right.
dumped in our city, and then a different car was taken from our city. So, but the local law enforcement, they're active with their training, and we're able to say the South Lakes PD is one of the few departments that is what they consider fully staffed. And I think very few departments around the state can say that right now, just because of the attrition and the flight from police departments. So.
Yeah, if I can just weigh in, I really want to call out my fellow mayors as well as the SLMPD with Chief Tholen. I mean, I think we're really blessed to have, really terrific police enforcement, but also just really terrific public service. And, there's so many stories that I think as mayors and elected officials that we may hear that aren't, broadcast to the residents. And, just one to highlight just real quickly, because I think it just shows the great work that's being done. I know we received a letter from Chief Tholen regarding two of his officers that were responding to a welfare check about a family sleeping in a car on some of the cold nights that we had just about a month ago. And upon, doing that welfare check, found out that that family was waiting for, their husband that was inside working, but it was a family that was homeless and sleeping in their car. And those two officers used their own money to make sure that that family got a hotel room for the night and tried to give them some additional support. So those are the kinds of things that I think that are really setting our South Lake cities and our public service apart from some of the other news that perhaps you're hearing is going on in the metro. So really terrific work, and that goes, I think, to the work that the coordinating committee is doing and the support that our police are getting from all the mayors in the area.
And Mayor Laverty was.
Sorry.
had brought me. Oh, no.
You're okay.
She brought both myself and I'm sure other mayors as well, and our police chief into discussions when the uptick was going on that we previously had not been a part of. So we got to be a part of the conversations with Edina and St. Louis Park, and where they were seeing a much greater increase in these incidents. And those produced some extremely beneficial discussions as to protocols and potential other options to control the situation should it increase or we see different types of incidents. And we're in Deep Haven, we have limited access we have very few roads that come in. And so those were interesting discussions to have. And so thank you, Mayor Labadie, for bringing us in.
Yeah.
There's another thing that comes up with our group in questions and it's around bicycles and bike safety. And now that we've got spring around the corner here and we're all flooding and walking through puddles, what are your cities doing to promote bike safety, and any plans on handling the increased traffic on Highway 19, especially in the Country Club and Tonka Bay areas?
Well, hearing Tonka Bay get thrown out there, I'll jump into this one. This is of high priority for me as well. I kind of came into all of this with three main things. First and foremost, it was the drinking water because of our main water line, and we're making extremely good headway there, knock on wood. And then the other two kind of actually work part and parcel with one another. I wanted to take a look and improve parks, but that also includes pedestrian safety, specifically with regards to County Road 19. And I know, I think I may have thrown this out at the last forum, and this is something I was just in discussions with my city manager today on. I know this is something that's been thrown out there before, but I would love to see a bridge on the bike trail over near Manitou Park, which would extend over County Road 19. But it's going to be kind of a multifaceted effort if we do that. But it sounds like we have some traction with the county. Certainly the county has also introduced me to Three Rivers Park. And then, just given kind of the topography and the way everything's structured around that, I think that could probably also include Excelsior and Shorewood too, because we're all sort of embedded in all of that, but it's largely kind of Tonka Bay real estate. I know we have some lights that are there. Sometimes they don't work. And I feel like the distrust that can come from those lights could either cause bicyclists to be overconfident potentially, or drivers to be overconfident as well. And I think a bridge would just help us bypass most of that.
Yeah. Anybody else?
We are working with a new engineering firm this year. We've said goodbye to an engineering firm that we had worked with for decades, literally. And so with this new firm gives us the opportunity to explore opportunities with grants for both bike and pedestrian safety, because there's always room for greater protection in those areas. So we are just starting the investigation process on what we can do with that. We know it's a huge part of the culture of where we live. And so we've made very, very small efforts, increasing street sweeping from past years, et cetera. So we're looking to see what we can do more with utilizing some of the studies that we've had in the past and haven't acted upon. So hopefully we'll have some more information maybe by the next forum.
Yeah. Anybody else?
In Greenwood, we have the LRT, which is heavily used, and we have been working with Three Rivers Park District over the years to ensure that sight lines are good. We've got a couple that intersect roads that are very busy, one by the old log especially, and tree trimming, make sure the signage is really clear about bikers needing to stop at these places. And it's just been an ongoing conversation we've had with Three Rivers over the years, and we made incremental improvements. There always is room for more.
Thank you.
I recently testified in front of a House committee regarding pedestrian safety.
Yep.
And I was one of two mayors myself, the mayor of Shorewood, and the mayor of Blaine were the two mayors that testified. Then they had a lot of other political elected officials, residents, citizen action groups that testified. And the reason I was asked to testify was by Representative Kelly Morrison asked me to testify, and it was in conjunction with our Galpin Lake Road project.
Mhm.
And that's a whole neighborhood we have that's on the south of Highway 7 that really, it's very dangerous to walk, to bike, to walk their dog, to do anything. And we've testified in front of the House more specifically on that project, in addition to the general pedestrian safety. And then we had the legislative bus tour that stopped and viewed that site. That's our main goal at the moment, but we're also working on putting a trail on Strawberry Lane. And we're in the final approval stages of that. And construction is set to occur in the summer of 2023. And that lane would take, on the north end, it would be at Minnetonka Elementary. And it would connect to Smithtown Trail. Going a little further south, it would connect to the LRT Trail. And further south at the border of our city with Chanhassen, it would allow residents to walk right up to Cathcart Park. So that's an important trail, and we've been working on that as well.
And if I could just weigh in real quick, Sharon, I appreciate Mayor Lavity's comments. You know, she highlights a gap that they have, and I think we all as a area have with the connectivity around Galpin Lake and Highway 7. There's one other gap that I'd like to highlight as well. And first of all, you know, Excelsior, we've been really focused, whether it's bicycle safety or pedestrian safety, it's all about making sure our neighborhoods are connected and that people can get out and explore where they live, right? And we've got a gap that I'll highlight, which is our Mill Road Powers Boulevard thoroughfare coming in from Chanhassen through Shorewood into Excelsior. You know, it's going to take really everybody's involvement to get that fixed. I know we've started initial project with the county, but when you're talking about county road, you're talking about city right-of-ways. You've also got state property, as well as Three Rivers Park District property. My hope is that we can close that gap, just like Mayor Labadie is working on with Shorewood over at Galpin Lake, and really get we call, you know, the area in the middle, Second Avenue, Third Avenue, Wheeler, getting this neighborhood and part of Excelsior connected, as well as Shorewood, right? Giving those residents that live on Mill, Shorewood easy access either into the city of Excelsior and then down to the bike trail, or again, some connectivity over to the other parts of Shorewood.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Carlson. Shorewood does have a trail plan, and Mill Street is on the plan. It does, like you said, take the cooperation of many entities. We've got the 2 counties, 3 cities, the Park District, 3 Rivers, but if we could accomplish that, I think it would benefit all the residents, regardless of what city they live in, that live in that area of town.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Next up is Cheryl Lesser, who lives in Shorewood, and she has questions regarding environmental issues for you.
Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us at the Mayor's Forum. The first question is, just recently we had 16 cities in Minnesota that recently banded together to declare a climate emergency to raise awareness and raise action across the state and specifically at the state legislature. Is your city considering investigating on how to reduce carbon emissions and make sustainable investments in future building projects, such as adding solar panels? Is there any of the mayors would like to address that question?
Well, at one of our recent work sessions, we met prior to the council meeting in a work session with an organization that is proposing possibly installing some electric vehicle charging stations on municipal property. They're looking potentially at Freeman Park and near the Shorewood Community and Event Center. they would not be run by or managed by the city, but they would be on municipal property. And we're looking at it as an amenity that we could provide to our residents, you know, to help the environment and for charging electric vehicles, which are sales are starting to go through the roof now with the high gas prices.
Yeah, we had a similar meeting to Shorewood with a similar group. One thing I would highlight, you know, we don't have any specific initiatives right now as it relates to, you know, climate emergencies and along those lines. But one project that we are undertaking in our commons, we're currently working. As you know, we completed our pavilion last year. We're working on a new concession building. And as part of that building, our PAC committee and our city council, we're exploring a green roof. So I think that's going to be something that's going to be unique. Hoping to have that project underway and completed by the end of the year. And again, that would be something that's completely different that we've done in our town, a completely environmentally safe green roof.
Greenwood is looking at ordinance changes to encourage permeable pavers, solar panels, wind, how you can have small turbines or turbines. I never know how you say that. That sort of thing. It's on our radar. We have not made very much headway with it, but it's something that I personally am interested in.
So from Tonka Bay's standpoint, a couple of years ago, we did, we created ordinances around making solar panels available for residential complexes if they so chose. You know, the other thing about Tonka Bay, we're kind of an old cabin community, so a lot of our lots are non-conforming. A significant percentage of our conversations often revolve around hardcover, which has a direct impact on stormwater and how that impacts the lake. So we actually recently lowered our hardcover percentage to the state mandate of 25%. I think we were at 35% prior to that. So it actually changes specifically what's being constructed in our city and the impact that that can have. And that also kind of segues into, you know, I think, and this is true for all of us, we have a representative on the LMCD. And again, when it comes back to water resources, I know invasive species is you know, first to bind for us. You know, it's unfortunate. I think, you know, a lot of what we hear is that, you know, many of the things that are going to impact Lake Minnetonka, it's not a matter of if, but when. And we're trying to really kind of wrap our arms around how to effectively deal with and manage those things by working in conjunction with the LMCD as well.
We have in Deep Haven had more frequent and more productive work sessions than I can remember in the last many years. And as part of these work sessions, we've discussed things that we've never discussed before, at least not since I've been a part of the city council. And several of those are exactly what we're talking about here today. Eventually, we're going to need to plan for updating our city hall. And what does that look like? And will the tree cover allow for solar panels and those types of options? We've certainly had those discussions, and similar to some of the other mayors, we're looking at different changes to ordinances that will allow for instance, the permeable pavers, just like Mayor Kine suggested, and what will allow for better environmental changes, both to our lake, which is obviously one of our largest resources in the area, and just the community overall. So we're investigating those, and it's been pretty interesting to have these conversations and have them in depth and see that we're all on the same page and moving forward in a direction that we had not necessarily moved towards in past years.
That's terrific. Thank you. Kind of along those lines, and specifically, this is a question for Mayor Labadie and Shorewood. In 2014, Shorewood passed the resolution endorsing bee safe policies and procedures, which really made us a leader in taking action to protect bees and pollinators who might be affected by the use of systemic pesticides on city property. However, at a recent city council meeting, there was a discussion around issues with compliance, and I think there was a conversation about how Shorewood actually is using pesticides in violation of the city's council's resolution. So can you maybe bring us up to date on the situation? Are we looking at other approaches about integrated pest management? And then to the other mayors, what are the other cities doing in regard to this issue?
Great, thanks, thanks, Cheryl. So it is true, we did pass a bee-friendly, bee-safe resolution with the intent of focusing on pollinators. And we, after that, on numerous occasions, pesticides were applied on various parts of city land. However, the pesticides that were applied were not illegal, and they were not illegally applied. They were approved pesticides that probably most cities use in their weed management programs. And they were applied by licensed applicators. But it does violate our Be Safe resolution. So everything we did was legal, but it violated the resolution that we as a council had passed. So now it's time to look ahead and try to not do this again and learn from our mistakes. So we did recently interview several integrated pest management firms, and we did select one. And the firm will focus on best practices for weed control and management throughout our cities. And they will also help educate our city staff, our public works department. And their plan goes out several years. This is not a 1 year or a one month meeting and we're done. So their plan, as long as we continue to hire them, goes out several years. Myself and our city administrator and numerous of our public works employees and city council members recently attended portions of a 3-day pollinator summit. It was a Zoom summit, so we were able to focus in on lectures and seminars that dealt directly with the issues that our city was facing. So that was very helpful. And I think we're just focusing on educating our staff and our city and our residents and doing the best practice management with the help of professionals from the Integrative Pest Management Company.
Okay, terrific. Thank you, Mayor Labadie.
Yeah, from Excelsior, we passed our Be Safe ordinance in 2016. Been going out for the last 6 years, and in talking through with Public Works, we continue to use Be Safe chemicals. So happy to be part of protecting the pollinators here in the South Lake.
Yeah, and I'll say from Tonka Bay's perspective, I don't believe we have a Be Safe policy in place. I do have 2 hives in my backyard, so I hope I can keep them healthy. But it's one of those things that I know change can be hard too, just operationally, right? And this happened when I was in the military. It happened when I was at Ford. I've got a small business now where I've got 36 employees, and we can have the best intentions to write the best policy and do the right things. And sometimes trying to get that translation down to all levels of your organization just takes time, and mistakes can happen. But I think, the sense that I get is everyone is attempting to do the right thing, and we'll get there. And it might not happen overnight, but I think we're going to land in a good place, because especially when you think about like neonicotinoids and like the half-life that they have, even if you shut it off today, a lot of times they're in the environment for another 3 to 5 years, depending on some of the studies that are out there. But it's definitely something that's important, that needs to be addressed.
I was going to say Greenwood uses 0 pesticides, so we don't need a policy.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so next up, Sharon is going to have some questions that deal with the city's infrastructure needs.
Hello, I'm going to just list off some things that we've talked about at our last forum and have seen online from the cities through announcements that there were several infrastructure issues, such as Deep Haven had the North Home Bridge that was replaced, Excelsior repairs for the Commons, water infrastructure, repair of St. Albans Bay Bridge, Shorewood had the roundabout along Highway 41, Galpin Lake Trail, Smithtown stormwater runoff management. Tonka Bay had water issues and replacement of the main water line. We've kind of touched on some of these tonight. Our question is has the American Rescue Plan and or the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act had any impact on the cities in some of these areas and any of these projects?
Sharon, if I can just jump in, the reference to the roundabout on Highway 41 in Shorewood, that's not a Shorewood project.
Okay.
Highway 41, where they are discussing a roundabout, is actually in the city of Chanhassen and Carver County.
Okay.
And that would be right out in front of MMW, Minnetonka Middle School West.
Right.
It's in the process of discussion, but that's not a Shorewood project.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Stand corrected. So has any of the cities had the American Rescue Plan or Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act help with any or consideration for any? Melissa?
Or not for the North Home Bridge. That was, it was a huge project for us, and it took many years. I believe that our former mayor worked with our congressman for, I believe, 6 years trying to get on that bill, on the bonding bill each and every year, where we were told it was there, and then magically by the time it came around, it wasn't. So we did finally get that through, and that took a while. So no, it did not affect that particular project. That was a long time in the works. The American Rescue Plan is going to be phenomenal for us. We haven't necessarily utilized many of those resources other than for emergency workers for the front line, the police and fire and such that have been out there doing this. We do have some great discussions going on how to do it. I don't know how much of that at this point is really going to go to infrastructure versus maybe some sorely needed communication, which is one of our goals for our residents in the near future. But we always have a list of infrastructure projects, stormwater projects, because we are not on any kind of city water system, and we have very limited stormwater and sewer connections in the city. So those are aging greatly, and as we found out as we've gone to replace those, they are oftentimes hot water heater shells instead of actual pipe that has been laid. So that's a project that or projects that we will be investigating. We just haven't necessarily determined exactly how that American Rescue Plan funds are going to be allocated.
I'll jump in here. So from my standpoint, a rose is a rose by any other name. We did recently receive word from Congressman Phillips's office that Tonka Bay made it into, I think it's called the community project funding at the federal level. And, if it's the American Rescue Plan, if it's hey, as mayor, if you're going to help us pay for stuff, I don't care what you call it, just it's going to help us. So it was good to see that. So between not only the federal funding, but also the support from the state that's potentially out there, both of those things are looking, again, knock on wood, very hopeful for us. And it's nice because we, as a city, we have allocated dollars for some of these projects and helping to pay for them. But with any outside resources that we can apply, we can then use that funding for other infrastructure because, let's face it, like in Tonka Bay, our roads and sewers are shot, and we need to figure out how to replace pretty much all of it right now.
Yeah, from Excelsior, I echo just the same comments, whether it's ARP funding or additional sources of state funding. We're just happy to get any assistance that we can, because even though it may not go directly to one project, that when we run on such a tight budget, And when you have such impacts too, every year when you're doing your budget and, tax levies and levy increases, it all makes an impact, and it's very important. So for us, we've got the sales tax certainly helping us out in the commons. We continue to have infrastructure issues with some of our streets, sewer, and water, looking for any assistance we can there. And working in conjunction with Greenwood on the St. Albans Bay Bridge. I know we've asked for some assistance, and we're looking for additional grants as we're looking to take on that project. That's a project that we've had on our radar for a number of years. I think we're getting to the point now where we're really going to have to get serious about making some improvements there, and any additional funding that we can get from the state or from some of these programs will help us.
You're here. That's the bridge that I think I'm in my 14th year as mayor now. And for every year that I've been mayor, I've been told we get 10 more years out of that bridge every year. But I think it might finally be here where we're gonna need to replace it. So it needs to be done. That's for sure.
That's been, I would say, and Mayor Kine can probably agree, that's been the easiest commission to be a part of for her 14 years and my last 4, because there hasn't been a lot to do, but we're getting busy now.
Yeah. The American Rescue Funds, Greenwood's earmarked them for our sanitary sewer infrastructure is how we've used that money. We've been on the naughty list at the Met Council for many, many years for I&I, and we're just keep plugging away and making improvements.
I have to throw in real quickly too. This actually goes back to I&I. I meant to mention this earlier when we were talking about environmental impacts. Met Council was hitting Tonka Bay for I&I as well. And we implemented a new ordinance whereby you have to get an inspection at the sale of your house. And in the event that you're part of that cause or problem, you have to repair the issue prior to closing. So just wanted to throw that in there real quickly. So.
Yep.
And the city of Shorewood is continuing to focus on obviously road improvements, and as we redo roads, installing city water. A good portion of our city, in fact, over half our city is still on well water. We're focusing on trails, and we're also focusing on stormwater management. And we're looking at that as rather than a small project by project, we're looking at stormwater management as a larger portion of our entire western city as a whole. And we're in the process of dealing with that right now.
Okay, so Cheryl's going to talk about questions as they relate to recreation, parks, trails, and housing. Kind of an odd combo, but that's how it rolled.
And we've already talked a little bit about the trails, specifically over 2019. But are there any plans for changing or increasing recreational opportunities in your city? What are your residents asking for in the areas of parks, trails, and recreational opportunities?
Our residents are asking for pickleball, more pickleball, pickleball everywhere. So that's certainly something that we're looking at. We've got an upcoming work session with our Parks Committee to lay that out and see what that might look like. And then our residents are, of course, I know this will shock you, but they're looking for additional dock space, which is no surprise considering where we are. But a lot of it has been reasonable. They want some permanent trash cans. Well, those are things that we can certainly look at. Maybe more benches in the parks, and these are all within reason. So we're going to lay this out at a work session. There's always a wish list, and we'll see what we can attack immediately, and maybe what we can lay out for the future. But we've got just phenomenal recreation here with some fabulous parks and obviously that trail system. So we want to do the best that we can to take care of it and encourage residents to get outside and use it.
Yeah, I would throw in from Tonka Bay's standpoint, I'll actually, Kristen Vigor, Councilmember Vigor, she kind of led the effort on this and put together kind of a really great comprehensive plan for Manitou. And we would love to tie that into the trail system, which is right there next to Manitou Park. But I think part of Tonka Bay's issue historically has been that we're fully built out. And a lot of dollars that are available for parks come from park dedication fees that come from new building and division of lots and things like that. So what we did to try and alleviate that was we actually fused our docks enterprise fund with kind of a newly developed parks commission that we developed. And in addition to that, we, in conjunction with the LMCD, we increased the number of slips available so that we can actually generate more dollars to help fund things like rinks, trails, park improvements, things like that. And I think in time, we can really have a showcase, hopefully, for the city as a whole in all of our parks.
The city of Shorewood is partnering actually with Three Rivers Park District. And Three Rivers Park District is going to be installing a trail through Freeman Park. And it's going to link into the LRT trail. It's going to be designated as a regional trailhead on the Three Rivers Park District's maps, as well as on their website. And I think that'll be a wonderful addition to our park. Several of our parks, we are either recently finished revamping or we're in the process of it. Our Silverwood Park is currently closed, but it will reopen early this spring. And one of the things that we're doing as we're rehabbing our parks is making everything ADA compliant. And in fact, the park near Badger Park, which Mayor McNeil, we have pickleball courts there and they're used all the time. The city council voted unanimously to install a surface around the playground equipment that was kind of like a hard compacted, not hard, like a forgiving rubber. And rather than wood chips or rather than mulch chips, and that surface, it was very expensive, but it allows greater accessibility for wheelchairs, for walkers, for accessible strollers. And we're slowly doing that to all our parks.
Yeah, and from Excelsior's perspective, we've really tried to embrace that, as we've got a very, small, in terms of square miles area for our community. And we're looking at how can we reinvent our community and some of those spaces, right? So whether it's the commons with the pavilion that we, recently installed, making sure that we've got great viewscapes out to Lake Minnetonka, unobtrusive views, even to some of the trees and some of the park area. We just implemented and installed a new pocket park on our Water Street at our trail crossing near the library. And what we did is we repurposed actually some parking, which is a critical need in Excelsior. But for many of the residents, they viewed that space as a kind of a throwaway space. And we reinvented that space as a pocket park. It's now a place with bike racks. It's a place for people to stop, get together, and maybe explore our downtown business district a little more. The other thing that we're looking at too, and I think has been really helpful for us, is we are working with a master gardener. We've got a master gardener who's a resident of Excelsior, sits on our commission certainly for the commons, but we've also been working with that individual to create kind of a, I want to say design standards but plant standards for our community. So again, making sure that what's planted is sustainable and that we can, work on making sure that any area that we've got in town is beautified and I think attractive to those that are visiting Excelsior.
She's a great resource. She just spoke to the Cottagewood Garden Club.
Terrific.
She worked on the Lurie Garden in Chicago.
Yeah, that resident's Colleen Lockovich, and we use her quite a bit. Again, not only in the Commons, but she's now also a resource to our city council.
Yep.
And I think I might be last but not least, I'm not sure. Greenwood doesn't have a ton of parks, but we do have some. We've got Greenwood Park, which is our most active park. That's where we have tennis court and playground equipment. And then we also have a little trail through there that in that whole area got recently renovated. And this last year in 2021, we had a goat dispatch project in our park to eat our buckthorn. It was a huge success. It was amazing what they cleared. And it was just so fun. I mean, these little goats, little goat families, mama, papa goats, and little baby goats. It was very, very fun. We'll definitely do it again. Schumann Woods Park is our green space. It's a larger park on Minnetonka Boulevard at the hard S curve at St. Albans Bay Road. If you look right, there's Schumann Woods Park right there. And then, of course, we have the Three Rivers Park District Trail that goes through Greenwood with what I would describe as the best overlook on the whole trail is in Greenwood. The view of Big Island, that's actually in Greenwood. And then our city trails, we have asphalt trails along Excelsior Boulevard and Minnetonka Boulevard. The one on Minnetonka Boulevard needs some repair, and that's probably at least a good section that's going to happen this summer. And there's a safety issue that we will be taking a look at, pedestrian biker safety issue. The trail is it's basically becomes one with Minnetonka Boulevard, very close to my house, actually. At the intersection of Curve Street and Minnetonka Boulevard, we're going to be looking at improving the safety there and realigning the trail. So we actually got quite a bit going on with our park and trails in Greenwood.
Just to switch topics to affordable housing, last year when we met, Excelsior discussed affordable housing strategies used by other cities for preserving modest housing in their cities and to keep folks in their homes. Has Excelsior talked further about ideas like Edina's has a come home to Edina program for second mortgages or housing trust funds?
Yeah, that was we had a lot of discussion around that. Unfortunately, with everything that we've got on our plate in the community, every year we set goals at the beginning of the year and we revisit those at the end of the year. And it's still on our goal list. However, we've got other things that have taken priority. What I would say is that we're certainly, we certainly realize that in order to be a viable community, we need to have all types of housing available for our residents. And what I will say is, as we look at any project that's coming before the city, in fact, we've got one that we're talking about now as it relates to our new city hall, potential new city hall. With that project, certainly looking to incorporate things like studio, market rate apartments, smaller apartments that can attract, residents that can live and work in the community. So yeah, absolutely, and really want to compliment Edina. What a great program that they've got there. We're fortunate enough to have one of the implementers of that program as our city attorney and also helping now on our city staff, Kevin Staunton. So I know it's something that we'll revisit, but just right now it's on our goal list, but not anything that we've actively been pursuing, unfortunately.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Carlson. Have other cities considered ways to help keep some of the affordable housing in your cities affordable?
Shorewood is pretty much built out. We don't have a lot of open land. So as projects come up, things are discussed. And as we submitted our comprehensive plan to the Met Council, we identified several different districts or zones that could potentially in the future have something like an apartment or something, but they would be potentially on top of a commercial district building. So we're trying to be creative, but our city is pretty built out.
Greenwood's the same way. We've got one apartment building that I'm not even sure if it would be considered affordable anymore. It's really interesting how the market is going. It's just crazy. And then Greenwood's totally built out, so there's really no opportunity. It is what it is, I guess.
Deep Haven has also looked at trying to get creative. We've certainly had the request, and we have tried many times. We've got a small commercial district that we could potentially look at. We lost the last of our area to build high density housing when we built Deep Haven Woods, a senior living facility. So that's the direction that we went with that space at the time. But there's very little space to get creative, but we're trying to see what we can do.
Yeah, I would throw in there too. I think part of the issue that we have, I mean, we're completely built out as well. Tonka Bay is, but I mean, this is so market driven at the end of the day. You know, I just got my own tax statement the other day, and my home increased in value in excess of 50%. And it's hard to wrap your arms around that, especially when you even take a look at the federal guidelines around low-income housing tax credits, for example, are based on a percentage of local median income. And what might be for us considered affordable per that calculation in real dollars, it's still extremely high for a lot of people, I think, that live in these kind of in the metro area as a whole. So it's not to say that we shouldn't be doing something. I think it's just really tricky. So.
Did you say your taxes went up, your valuation went up 50%?
Yeah, in excess. I think when I did the rough numbers, yeah, I was in the 400s. I'm now in like 651, I think. So
It's like Tonka Bay is the place to be.
either that or my house is. It's one of the two. I'm not sure. So a lot. It went up quite a bit. So
I thought our personal one, our house went up 35%, and I thought we were the winner, but wow, sorry.
Sorry. No, I'm looking at it was so I calculated it prior to this meeting because I thought this might come up. It was 49.7.
Call it 50.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, I did. If I could just jump back in on your question real quickly, I did want to highlight, the fact that, we've talked about, our communities being built out. In Excelsior, 61% of our residents do live in apartments. I think that's the one thing that I continue to highlight. But I think what I want to highlight too is I think our city council has really kind of put a stake in the ground as it relates to new projects. And I think one of the things that we've tried to telegraph a little bit as projects come in is we're not interested in seeing projects that are going to be condo projects with, third floor buildings, 3-floor buildings that, will go to $2 to $3 million, per unit, right? I think we've been very transparent that our community is not interested in that, and that what we'd rather do is support, again, those projects that bring us, studio or market rate apartments or projects that everybody can afford and be a part of.
Great information. Sharon has some questions on development. If you got, what kind of development projects do you have going on, and what do you anticipate, what's coming up?
I mean, most of you guys are built out. I mean, I know that, but when you get people that come buy a home and want to tear it down and build something new, I know that Excelsior, when we spoke last time, was getting some, a residential review process ordinance. Any more traction with that, and how has that worked? And are other cities looking at that? So residents, so people know, what's the green spot, what's the house to lot size, that kind of stuff. Because I think it's gotten so blurred over the years that I think sometimes, you'll get a builder saying one thing, and then you go to buy, and then it's like, wait, I got to do this and that. And just, I don't know how are you guys working with that?
Sure. I think as you addressed, Sharon, about a year ago, we implemented residential review board and what we called good neighbor guidelines. And that was really in response to a lot of the construction development activity that we were seeing in our village, right? And a lot of that was due to the simple fact that in the village, we've got so many different lot sizes. I mean, if I look at my previous home here in Excelsior, I was on a lot size that was about 6,900 square feet. But you get then you're also you've got lots that are over 14,000 square feet in the village. So how do you try to, build the puzzle was really what it came down to. And we created and implemented what we call good neighbor guidelines and put together a residential review board, which includes a city planner as well as a city architect. It's an architect that we outsource. We don't have that individual on staff, but what the real intention is to do is to really get prescriptive in terms of if you've got a project that you'd like to build, or you're considering doing a tear down in your on your lot. We're just simply asking that you get your neighbors involved and that we put more eyes on the project to try to really make it the best project that it can be. And we've had some starts and stops with it. But what I will say is it does encourage discussion. And I think overall it's been a benefit and a positive to our community. It does require, certainly property owners and builders, to go through a couple extra steps, and that can be, I know, cumbersome, and especially if you're looking to get a project done quickly, some of that delay may be frustrating, but I think overall, just trying to make sure that everybody gets along in the community.
I see less signs of save, Excelsior around, which is nice. That means it's working.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
been really a lot of great work by our city staff, as well as the folks on our city planning. I can't compliment those folks. I think about all the work of our planning commission. I mean, all those individuals are volunteers, and the hours they put in to make sure that we try to have the best city that we can have is just terrific.
Yeah, I would throw in too, from Tonka Bay's perspective, and I think this has kind of been the case for some time. It's the development in our area. I mean, by and large, is tear downs and rebuilds, but it's kind of a clean slate. So, I mean, we are historically an old cabin community, and I think with that, there were a lot of things that we inherited that weren't necessarily probably good for the environment or the lake. And this gives us an opportunity to really kind of stamp out any nonconformities and get better water management as well, whether that be rain garden or a big part for us is minimizing and lowering the amount of hard cover for any of the new structures that are coming in.
I'll go next. Greenwood was one of the first cities, if not maybe the first city, to pass a massing ordinance to keep the size of houses proportionate to their lot size. And it's worked fairly well, I would say, for Greenwood. There's still lots of variance and conditional use permit requests, just because of the cabin history, as Mayor Jennings referred to. We got lots of tiny lots and lots of houses trying to be shoehorned in on them, and lots of grandfathered rights that people have, and we end up reducing the nonconformities. We don't get rid of them altogether.
Thank you.
I mentioned that we've had an extreme number of work sessions and planning sessions, both just with our city council and so far with our planning commission. And these are things that we've been talking about too. We obviously have had ordinances on the books. They a lot of times relied on assumed good neighbor practices, which over time doesn't necessarily work any longer. We like to think they do, and we like to think that it's still a quaint community that folks can rely on one another. And when they don't, what does that lead to? So that's kind of where we are talking now about what does that need to look like. And we don't want to lead with stick. We'd rather lead with carrot. And that's a discussion in and of itself. But we have talked about all sorts of different alternatives to what that looks like. And do the massing ordinances work, or do the permeable pavers reduce hard cover, and really trying to specify that? And those are more in-depth conversations than I think anybody intended, and they will be going on for quite some time.
Thank you.
The city of Shorewood, our biggest development, which was the Minnetonka Country Club, is finished. There's 142 lots in the country club. They are all sold. And so beyond that, our development projects are going to be much smaller in scale. We do have a project occurring right now, and that'll have 14 single-family homes.
So I think we're going to get to our final question. So my final question, you can use this as part of your closing summary. would be, what are what do you think are the most important issues facing your city? And tied in with that, is there anything that you would like to say that we didn't touch base on tonight that you feel is important for the viewers to know about?
We called it out earlier. For Excelsior, it continues to be infrastructure, whether that's sewer, roads, water. It could also be certainly the infrastructure of the Commons Park, making sure that we continue to maintain that for the entire South Lake, as well as Minneapolis-St. Paul area. One thing that's going to be critical to our town going forward too is certainly a new city hall, similar to the St. Albans Bay Bridge. We've been in need of a new city hall for a while. We've been making do with what we have, but I think this current council is really setting a firm path to try to get some resolution as to what where that building needs to be, and when we need to get that completed here in the very near future. So it continues to be infrastructure. For me, it also continues to be pedestrian and public safety. We talked earlier about making sure that our neighborhoods are connected, specifically, our Mill Avenue, 3rd Avenue, 2nd Avenue areas of town, being able to connect to the village as well as to the other communities. And then lastly, I think the only other thing that I will say is, and everybody's heard it before, but I continue to my vision for Excelsior and for the entire lake is to really make our area the place to live, work, and play. And with that, right, you create a plan and you create those things to make that happen. And I'm really proud of the work that my city staff has done. I'm proud of the work that we're doing in conjunction with the other cities. I think there's certainly a lot of respect for everybody that's on this call tonight. I think we work well together, and I think we've got each other's backs. So it's my privilege to serve in the South Lake. It's my privilege to be the mayor for the city of Excelsior, and we're just going to continue to do the best we can to make sure that everybody has a positive experience if they either come to live, work, or play here.
Yeah, our biggest issues facing our city are, they're all kind of connected: roads, trails, implementing city water, and stormwater management. And the reason I say they're all connected is because when you're working on one, it's much easier to work on another aspect of that as well. Example, installing water when you're installing a road, installing curb and gutter when you're installing a road and a water system. So they're all really interconnected. So those are our long-term big issues facing the city. But I do want to highlight what I consider one of our immediate, more short-term important goals. And I say short-term just because it's on the eyes right now and under the microscope of MnDOT, is our access onto Highway 7. Our city, it's almost impossible to access Highway 7 at a safe point without traveling dramatically out of your way. In our city, we only have a few access points with stoplights, and they are located in Excelsior. There's one located in our city by Cub. Beyond that, it's stop signs, and it's very dangerous. So MnDOT is doing a highway traffic study that they say they'll wrap up right around June 2022. And we really have our fingers crossed that they're going to earmark some of the intersections that Shorewood has with Highway 7 as intersections that need improvement and traffic safety and controlling measures. So that could still be a long-term project, but I'm thinking positively, and I'm thinking that in June we'll hear some positive news, which in my opinion could make it a more shorter-term thing. But those are our main things: roads, water, trails, stormwater management, and access to Highway 7. And like Mayor Carlson, I feel very fortunate that I've been elected to this role. I've enjoyed meeting mayors from all around the state at the regional conference or council of mayors. They meet monthly. I've enjoyed going to different conferences and just meeting. One thing I have found at all these meetings, it doesn't matter if you're the mayor of a city of 300 people, 3,000 people, or 300,000 people. we're all facing a lot of the same issues, and we all have the same respect for just making our city a better place, as Mayor Carlson said, to live, work, and play.
You're here. I can
Thank
go
you.
next.
Okay.
Thanks to the league for hosting this. It's always fun, whether it's in person or virtual. I learn something new every time. You know, I see you guys all the time, but I just learned something new. I can't remember what I learned tonight, but I always learn something new. This is my 14th year as mayor of Greenwood, which is so hard to believe. Time goes by really quickly. I've had the pleasure of working with wonderful councils throughout the years. Everyone's been great. Current one's no exception. Get to work with great mayors of our joint power cities. This group's no exception. It's just, I don't know. It's just all a bed of roses. Okay, I got a few neighbor complaints yesterday, so I guess I can't get too excited. But anyway, our biggest issue is property valuation increases. Our residents are flipping out. 34.6% increase for on-lake properties. We still have a local board of appeal and equalization, which is the city council, hearing property tax valuation appeals. I just can't even imagine what a nightmare it's going to be. So, if you're inclined to pray, please pray for the Greenwood City Council. It's not going to be fun. We've mentioned this before with Mayor Carlson, Mayor Labadie, Mayor Jennings, and I serve on the South Lake Minnetonka Police Department Coordinating Committee. We are working, our JPA expires. Who knew? I didn't even know they could expire. Ours expires, and it's actually, I believe, the oldest JP in the state of Minnesota. It expires, and I'm hoping that since we have such a great group of mayors right now, that we maybe can come to some sort of agreement, an official agreement before the coordinating committee changes over. So I'm just planting that seed, you guys, that maybe now would be a good time to get that nailed down. It will be on our next agenda. Just a thought. We will be partnering with Shorewood to rehabilitate St. Albans Bay Road, hopefully this year. We'll be partnering with Excelsior on the bridge. It is nice that we get along with our neighbors. And then I guess my last comment is I want to encourage everybody to go to the old log and all of our city's businesses just to help them emerge from that pandemic. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor Kine. All right, Mayor McNeil.
This is a tough question for me because I'm new and I have obviously way too many ideas and I want to solve everything and make everybody happy and all the residents. I think I can eliminate all of the complaints in the entire city, which based on the 20 or so calls and emails I get a day, that is clearly not going to happen. But I am lucky, extremely lucky to be a part of council that wants to talk about this as much as I do. And so that's the reason why we've had the sessions that we've had, and we'll continue to have the sessions and joint sessions with the other committees in town. The three that I guess I would put it around, not guess, it's 100% what I've made my list around would be clarity, communication, and long-term planning. And these are great areas of improvement. Obviously, there's a lot under those three categories: infrastructure, and there's some staffing issues. We've got staff of a certain age that will turn over in lump sum in the not too distant future, which will affect residential resources. And so wanting to solve all of that, but do it in a time frame that is reasonable and obviously not this year is the challenge for me. So getting that on the schedule to move out 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever it might be, to solve for what we can solve is a huge priority for me and a big passion project.
And Mayor
Yeah,
Jennings.
I guess I'll
Community
jump in
cleanup.
there. I've kidded in the past that our three priorities are water, water, and water. I do say that as the legislative session was starting this year, we had 3 water main breaks that left the city without water in the first week of session. Really helped kind of, like, it was very perfect for the conversations to be having with our representatives about that time. That being said, it's really infrastructure at the end of the day. I mean, where I think most of what we have was last touched in the late 60s, early 70s. And, you know, my priorities are to take care of this main water line. You know, certainly people need and want water on a reliable basis, but it's also a public safety issue because our fire hydrants are out during those times as well. But once we get that nailed down, I'm already having a conversation right now with our new city administrator about coming up with a comprehensive plan to replace all of our sewers and streets throughout the city, and update all of our fire hydrants as well, because we need it. You know, it's funny, about 4 years ago when I started, actually it would have been 6 years ago, Deb, like time flies, right? The very first day that I came in as a newly elected city council member and I met with our city engineer, he sat down with me and the very first thing he said to me was, your roads are shot. You got to replace them. And
You didn't get that. You get 10 more years out of them?
yeah. and what was funny is, like, it turns into a bigger thing than that, right? Because it's not like you can just, there is no more mill and overlay. He's just, you can't do it. He's like, if you mill it, it's gone. And our city's old enough that if you attempt to try and replace the street, well, you'd probably need to replace the sewer underneath it. So what was maybe a relatively inexpensive project from a maintenance standpoint has turned into a significantly larger thing. So that's a plan I hope to develop and a nut I want to crack. So that's kind of where we're at. Oh, and happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone, by the way.
I'm sporting the green today.
All right. Yeah, you know, I always wanted to spend St. Patrick's Day with y'all.
That's your wish, Peg.
Cheers.
There you go.
Cheers.
Being the Irish lass that I am. Well, you know, thanks. I mean, as usual, you guys are just, and gals are just amazing, you know, and I think the area of South Tonka that we live in is just a fabulous place to live. And I think it really goes to show that that all of you work really well together. You have respect for one another. You really try to figure out what makes sense to work together. You know, how can we improve things together, but yet how do we develop our own communities so they have their own personality and their own spark of interest. And I think that really shows in these meetings. You know, it's really fun to see how you collectively work together, you know, and appreciate your time and talent and your ability to work with us in the league to showcase what you're doing in your cities.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much.